Here we have Apple's 16-inch behemoth of a laptop. It is big, but good things come in humongous packages? Now this 16-inch aluminum masterpiece is priced at about $20.99, and we're going to try to find out today if that's any good value or not. Hint, I think it is. See, this MacBook Pro 16 inch is really designed for a specific group of people. It is, of course, in Apple's Pro range, and I think that's who they want buying this thing. But I wouldn't exactly call this thing a video editor yet. Let's dive into the specs a little bit here for a moment. It comes with the 9th generation i7 processor. This one comes with a 5300 AMD graphics card that can be optioned up to the 5600 series graphics card. This one comes with 16 gigs of RAM, optioned up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. This one comes with a 512 gigabyte solid state drive, and they can be optioned up to a 2 terabyte solid state drive. None of which, any of that stuff can be upgraded on this thing. So when you're buying it, make sure that you buy the configuration that you want, otherwise you're screwed later on. But as you can tell from its hardware list and spec sheet, this thing has an impressive amount of horsepower. But there's one glaring omission that Apple fails to tell you, and even though this thing is a very capable, very powerful machine, they do throttle the power of this computer based on the thermals alone. So if you and you can option this with the i9 processor as well, but especially in the i7, especially in the i9, what basically Apple does is they downclock the CPU and they don't let it get to its highest possible rate until it absolutely has to, and then when it's running in that burst mode, it doesn't let it stay there very long. So the end result is a laptop that's designed for video editors. However, you're not going to be getting the performance that you may think you will with all of this configuration. For example, if you were to get an iMac with a similar build set, it would perform probably twice as fast in certain situations. And the answer is simply that the iMac can cool itself a little bit better, so it doesn't require as much throttling of their performance, so this thing doesn't overheat. MacBook Pros have always been known for being able to cook an egg on top of, and this one is no exception. It still gets very, very hot, although maybe not quite as bad as laptops as the MacBook Pros of yore. But that said, this thing still does get very, very hot under load. Now, when it does get hot, of course, the fans kick in. And one of the most impressive things about the MacBook Pro lineup in general is how quiet their fans seem to operate. You can hear them, but they're pleasant sounding. It sounds like wind blowing in a bamboo forest, and it's not as obnoxious as some other laptops are. So Apple's done a very good job at designing the asymmetrical fans. And then, of course, the other awesome thing about this computer are its speakers. But we're going to get into that in just a moment. Let's talk about one of its most important features, which is, of course, the 16-inch screen. So Apple, a while ago, decided that 17-inch computers were not their thing anymore, and they focused specifically on their 15.6-inch market. Well, a lot of people complained over the course of almost a decade, and Apple finally responded in kind with a 16-inch happy medium. Now this 16-inch screen comes with a 3072 by 1920, yeah, I was right, resolution screen, so it's super, super sharp. It's 500 nit brightness, so it's super, super bright. It is glossy, although I'm assuming Apple will eventually choose to put their little nano matte technology on the next series of these things. But be that as it may, it gets bright enough on a sunny day that you really don't have to worry about glare too much. But all in all, you're left with a screen that has very deep blacks, very vivid colors, and airs on a very neutral side because of its True Tone technology, which allows it to bounce between sort of a warm and cool temperature depending on the ambient light that you are working with. So this screen is very, very impressive. It is one of the best possible screens that you can get on a laptop, of whether it's PC or Mac, and I think Apple has done a fabulous job at paying very close attention to this screen. But one of the only things that it is missing is perhaps the 120 Hz refresh rate, and I do hope that Apple starts introducing that on some of their computers here soon, iMacs, MacBook Pros, but be that as it may, this one does just have a traditional 60 Hz screen. So let's hop from one awesome feature to the next. It has one really, really fantastic screen. It has some of the best damn speakers you've ever heard on a laptop. The 13-inch MacBook Pro has fabulous speakers for a 13-inch computer, and this 16-inch MacBook Pro has incredible speakers for a laptop in general. By far the best speakers that you can get on a laptop. There is no comparison. I'm not going to play an example of it. I've had people ask me that in the past on my videos, but it doesn't really make sense for me to play the speakers on a video because you're hearing it through your speakers. So take it from me when I tell you that these speakers are incredible. They've got good highs, they've got good mids, they've got good lows, which most speakers do not. And not a lot of distortion, a lot of volume. They're just fabulous. They're equalized well, and you can, of course, equalize them and kind of customize them a little bit if you want as well. But nevertheless, Apple has done a stunning job at these speakers. So if you're an audiophile, this is the notebook to get. A couple of other little small notes. It does come with 802.11 AC Wi-Fi. It comes with Bluetooth 5.0, low power, and it comes with a 720p camera. Now, I do wish that Apple put in a slightly better webcam in this thing. And again, I think in the future, moving forward, they're planning on putting probably like 1080p cameras in. But nevertheless, the 720p camera is good enough for all practical use. So if you're doing Zoom, Skype, or any kind of office type stuff, you'll be able to get a fine experience out of the webcam, and here is an example of the footage now. This is a test of the webcam on the MacBook Pro 16-inch in a medium lit room, probably something most people would be using on Zoom. Hey, that rhymed. Apple claims that you'll get about 11 hours out of its battery. Now, practically speaking, I think you're only probably going to get somewhere between 9 and 10 depending on what you're doing. But be that as it may, you could. Apple is one of the more truthful companies when it comes to battery life, so I think some people might be able to get around 11 hours or so. But in our test, we got between around 9 and 10. Speed and general performance of this computer is fantastic. It is fucking fast. I mean, after all, look at all the stuff that it comes with. And you can equip this thing to the brim. But again, remember, buy it when you are buying one. Make sure that you option it with all the specs that you want, because it is not upgradable. Not the RAM, not the solid state drive, not the nothing. You can't upgrade anything after you buy it. You gotta buy it the way it is. That said, it is very quick. When you turn it on and when you are just roaming around, when you're rendering video, audio, photos, whatever it is, this thing is very, very quick. In terms of input output, much like its 13-inch younger sister, it comes with 4 USB-C ports, chargeable. You can charge the battery on all 4 ports. It also comes with a dual audio headphone TRRRS jack. I'll just get that, put that in the screen there. Whatever, it's not going to be perfect, people. I'm sorry. It comes with a dual headphone jack, audio and headphone, or I'm sorry, mic and headphone dual jack. Another thing to note about the input on the MacBook Pro 16-inch is that the trackpad on this thing, I don't know why I'm lifting it because I'm only going to do a close-up later anyway. Trackpad is, you can't even see it, so much glare in my camera. Trackpad is fucking enormous. It is literally the size of my hand. And not only is it so big, it is also super functional. It has the best gesture support of any trackpad laptop, or of any laptop's trackpad that you can buy. It's huge, so it's very, very usable. It's a pleasure to use. It's accurate. It doesn't ghost a lot. It has the haptic click on it, so it just feels good. It is fantastic. It's glass. It's just everything about Apple's trackpads are the best in class. Yeah, there is really no trackpad like it on the market. Apple really, I mean, they practically put an iPad mini on this computer here. A couple of other little quick notes about the features that it has. It does have a fingerprint scanner with Touch ID, but it does not have Face ID or facial recognition. A glaring omission on Apple's part, but nevertheless, I'm sure they'll be adding it eventually. But they only have a fingerprint reader right now as far as their security is concerned. And then of course you get Mac OS on this thing. So love it or hate it, Mac OS is a fine operating system, and if you are looking for a Mac and only want Mac OS, well then of course this has Mac OS. It's very, very secure. It's got all their security enclave stuff. It's just a dynamite little machine. It's robust and it's gonna have all that Mac usability, and people are really going to love it. But just remember one other thing really quick. A lot of people still ask me, does my Mac need antivirus software? And the answer is yes these days. A lot Macs are under attack almost as much as PCs are. Well, maybe not almost as much as PCs are, but almost as much as PCs are. And you should get antivirus software for your Mac. It just kind of locks it down and makes the world a more secure place. Keyboard. Again, much like its 13-inch younger sister, it is phenomenal. One of the best keyboards that you can possibly have on a laptop. It's no longer the butterfly keys from last generation MacBook Pros. It's just fantastic. It is one of the best keyboards you can get. Great tactile response, great accuracy. It feels good. It's comfortable. It's not going to be fatiguing to pluck on. And then of course it has the touch bar at the top. And the touch bar, love it or hate it, it's there, but it has a separate escape key now, and I'm very glad that they did the separate escape key. Now, none of the Mac laptops come with the numpad on the keyboard. So for example, if you're an accountant or somebody that inputs a lot of numbers into Excel, whatever it is, you're not going to have the numpad on the right side. The numpad on the right side there, you're going to have to use the numbers on the top or get an external keyboard. That might be a deal breaker for some people. I've heard of people that just have to have it, but it doesn't. It does have full-size keys, and Apple made room for its speakers, hence the reason why it doesn't have the numpad. They wanted to make sure that there was room to fit their slamming speakers in there, but doesn't have the numpad. That's okay. I don't need it. I don't miss it. Maybe a little bit. But it's still good. It doesn't have it. You can't have it even if you wanted it. You can't have it even from factory. Can this laptop take a beating? And the absolute answer is yes. It is a full aluminum unibody design. It is built to last, for sure. If you are, who is this laptop for? I think it's probably for students, maybe like people like architectural students, maybe even like students that are in like a video program and they need to bounce from class to class. You probably could use this thing as an on the site like video editor. But I feel like if you're a real serious editing team, like if you're like the pros filming on Grand Tour, for example, you guys are going to be roaming around with like iMacs and or Mac Pros, and then you have your sort of mobile editing station. But that said, you could edit video on this thing. It's got the horsepower to do it, even if they throttle it because of thermals. But if you're Photoshop raw editing, if you're doing audio processing, using this thing as an audio interface, basically, if you are looking for the best possible big laptop, like one of the best possible screens, that is who this computer is going to be for. Who is it not for? It is not for gamers. One of the most pronounced questions on YouTube is, can the MacBook Pro 16-inch game? And while it has the graphics cards and all that other stuff to do it with, the screen resolution has always been a big problem with MacBook Pro gaming. If you want to game on a MacBook Pro, you probably are going to need either an external graphics card or an external monitor to drive just a little bit more horsepower or less resolution. So you can do some gaming on this thing, obviously, like if you do native App Store games, Civilization 6, StarCraft 2, this kind of stuff, it'll handle it no problem. But if you're going to be doing like boot camp or something like that and you want to play AAA titles, it's going to choke a little bit on higher settings. Anybody looking for a very, very powerful laptop and likes the big screen real estate, that's who this thing is for. Would I recommend the MacBook Pro 16-inch laptop? Yeah, I would. I really like the laptop a lot. It is just a very well thought out computer. Apple paid very, very close attention to a lot of small details on this machine. And the only parts where they sort of disappointed you, so to speak, is stuff that they did intentionally for planned obsolescence. But otherwise, they really did pack this thing about as full of power as they possibly could. So that is our rundown of the 16-inch MacBook Pro. If you have any questions or comments, or I made a mistake again, feel free to point it out to the world in the comments section. Otherwise, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.